What do you think about local currencies as part of that? Have you explored that at all?
It's interesting you mentioned that. I am. I've recently had a new customer, NatureWorks, over on Salt Spring, so I had the opportunity to go over to Salt Spring. My wife is from Nelson. Now, both of those places, transition towns, they've had currencies. Recently missed the ferry back to Victoria, sitting in the Salt Spring terminal going, what do I do with 2 hours? And then I walked into an organic bakery bookstore and had the most amazing conversation. I walk in and they're both talking about this conversation in local, and they hush up, and I introduce myself and they're like, oh, okay, you can join the conversation. And then they were telling us, what they're gearing up for, seed saving, somehow reiterating a local currency again, barter exchange, these sorts of things. Yeah, I think that, if we could organize something, I don't know if I should be saying this on camera, on a province-wide level, a currency, it would be a good thing. In addition to our existing currency, people could maybe go onto a central hub website and purchase a certain dollars, and businesses could use that. Sure, there's all kinds of ideas out there, and it's unfortunate that some of these startups have failed. But it's obvious to me that they were started up for a reason, and that there is a good reason to look at how to do business outside of the norm.
And we believe that the ultimate solution is kind of a made in BC economy that's based in regional and local self-sufficiency, and that interdependency where we value add to everything that we produce, so that we're never the marketer of a raw material. We always add something to that. As much as possible, we make and use it locally. And we get off that treadmill of almost behaving as if we're a business under liquidation. I mean, it's crazy that we have these amazing resources in BC and we sell them cheap and we sell them to other places, and we don't even recognize that there is value in what we're doing. For instance, natural gas. British Columbia is a natural gas powerhouse in some ways. Some of the ways they do natural gas we shouldn't be doing. But it could be a transitional fuel that would take us to a low carbon economy. And so we sell it cheap and to whoever will bid for it. So
sure.
There's a craziness to our current economy.
Sure. I mean, we're selling our wood. It's going to China, getting cut up and then sold back to us.
Yeah.
Or they're holding on to it as a currency. That's interesting. Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
I want to address a couple of things that you mentioned in an email to me. One was, how do we make local and sustainable part of the conversation? Because it's great for you and I to know that this is the future, and there is a developing core of people. I don't think a critical mass yet, or a tipping point
Not yet.
mass yet. How do we, and you've talked a little bit about how you can deal with kids, but how do we get the broad spectrum of British Columbians and Islanders to say, okay, we need to be thinking every time we make a choice that it has to be a conscious choice?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I often say that really hits home with people is you don't vote every couple of years, you vote every time you pull your wallet out. People really need to get the power of that individually and collectively. And again, we're embracing things like social media. So you have a great experience, you tell your friends. So I think that's the potential for this to catch on is huge.
And you talked about those apps where you could actually know exactly where that vegetable came from.
Yeah, and there's a book I read recently that spoke of transparency with companies, and if there was some sort of measure to which a product was deemed a 5 out of 5 star green, that people could quickly and easily, because everyone wants to do the right thing, but they're too busy, too stressed, not enough time to actually do that research. And so, oh, it's cheap, I'll buy it. But money, the fact that it's $3 is only one measure, right? So if we could look online and say, well, this is $3, this is $4, what am I going to choose? Well, that's $1 cheaper. But this company is doing things correctly, and this company say is not, just to keep it easy. So what is that $1? Well, that could be the loonie of change that shifts our economy, our world, if we chose the right thing to do. So if there was an app available that people could quickly and easily look at something and go, okay, this is good, and purchase it, I think that would be a huge stepping stone. I try to always look behind the pretty packaging, at least read the ingredients, you know. I'm in the body care industry. We have beautiful 100% natural body care items. And I always look at the ingredients first. If I'm going to put it on my body or in my body. And if I don't know what that ingredient is, I go to safecosmetics.org and I type it in. And if it says that it's cancer causing and it's a 9 out of 10 hazard rating, I put it back on the shelf. You know, if it's a 1 or 2, okay, it's not the first ingredient, I'll buy it. So
somehow we have to make it easy for people to understand that there are ways to check what they're purchasing.
Yeah.
Ways to know what that product does both to themselves and to the environment.
Absolutely, and I think that should be the role of government. I mean, as you've said before, I've heard you say that, you know, government can get involved with their strings with subsidizing things like oil and gas and timber. What we should be looking to is having government set a playing field that helps businesses stand out for their value and their values. And if we had a government agency that could rate things, and if I wanted to bring a product to market, currently I can just do that. And I don't even have to put what the ingredients really are in there. If if sodium lauryl sulfate is something that isn't popular, I'm just not going to put it on there. And what's my repercussion until somebody gets sick or dies, and then it, gets investigated.
Right.
So,
and even then it's a one-off person, and we rarely hear about it.
Absolutely. So if we had something where I had to submit that to the government said, right, it's approved, what's on the ingredient list is improved, it's not going to cause cancer, it passes the green light, then you can put it on market. And not that they'd have to test even every product, but just the threat that they pull products and do intermittent tests. And if you're a company that gets found out by not being ethical, you get dinged, you get fined, you're not allowed to put that product on the market for another year. If there was something like that, this would be a different world.
Yeah. So tell me what else you think, and we're focused provincially, so some of those are national standards,
sure.
right?
Understood.
So that's the conversation that the provincial government should be having with the federal government, not always an easy transition.
Yeah.
But what about the provincial government? What could it do? What could it be doing to support local agriculture, to ensure that we're conscious of the fact that we need to be growing more of our food locally, to support the small business communities so that we can have that kind of vibrant collective that you're fostering? What could the provincial government be doing?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I would say a couple of things that come to mind. One, allowing people like myself, my business is growing, I'm limited by the amount of cash flow that I have. So banks are leery to lend money in this economy. So if there was some sort of system set up where there was some support from the government, either through an approved grant program, something fairly low interest, or many businesses survive on credit cards and some of them are quite high, so a consolidation plan with a good solid business plan and with testimonials and obviously a case study so that it was sound. I think that the other thing is people, I think, should be investing more in credit unions. And if credit unions were supported to help companies grow in a bigger way, that would be fantastic. That whole idea of a cooperative, I'm transferring my banking from the Royal Bank to either Island Savings or another institution in Vancouver. Yeah. So I'm investigating that.
You know that they have a similar philosophy in terms of supporting small business.
Yeah, and there's a micro-lending, this is a private practice. Apparently this micro-lending institution in Victoria is giving people $5,000 for business startups based on a business plan, on good ethics, and people who have money are investing in that over putting it into RSPs and such. Yeah. Ethical investing. So if we had a model that the government could support that would allow people to invest locally and not risk their shirt, perceivably,
Yeah.
right? And if there was 25 businesses and they were investing $10,000 within the 25 businesses, well, now you have diversification, which all of our financial planners tell us we need, but on a local level.
Yeah.
So,
And that is so critically important, that the small business community, small to mid-sized business community, constitutes 98% of the businesses in BC. We think that it's the big businesses, but it's really our small businesses. And every time one of those fails, it's somebody's passion and livelihood that's gone with that failure. And we do need to find a way to stabilize the small business and the innovation that comes through small business.
Not just their business, but chances are their home. I
Yeah.
mean, most small business people, they mortgage their home against the debt that they've borrowed. Their lives are ruined.
And there are models for that. When it was mid-90s, I think, when I was still in Edmonton, I was part of the Women's Enterprise Initiative, which was a federally funded government program where there was $1 million a year for each of the Western provinces for a 5-year period. So $5 million in Alberta over that period of time, so that we could provide loans to women entrepreneurs who were either in startup mode or who were in expansion mode, so that they would have that ability to acquire money, which is so difficult, as you say, with the traditional banks.
Yeah.
So that's I think the questions I had. Do you have any questions of me or of the Green Party?
Well, I'm encouraged sitting here listening to you with the possibilities of entering into some new paradigms around how government can contribute towards a successful, productive society, a new green society. I know that the revolution's happening. I see it, but not quick enough. I think that we're now living in the time of consequence, and that it's really up to us now here. We can't leave it to our children. We know now, with the amount of science that's out there, saying that if we don't change our ways in the next few years, there's not going to be a future. So, with that said, I see a lot of possibility, and it just takes some strong leadership on the business community, on the government level, and bottom line, society standing up. And it's going to be the little communities that together stand up. I'd just like to close by saying that if we can have community centers, having potlucks, bringing people together, discussing these issues on a community level, and then engaging the provincial government based on the needs of that core group, then everyone gets heard, and it's a collective. It's not individuals shouting there's something wrong.
Yeah. One of the things that I was thinking as you were talking about how it's up to us. It's kind of like we're the grown-ups. It's time to be grown-ups and do the work that's necessary.
Yeah.
I had two thoughts. My grandson is almost 5. He will be 5 any day now. And his dad came to me and he said, "Don't talk to him about water. He's really concerned about water being harmed." And I thought, that's not fair that a 5-year-old has to carry that stress about worrying about water. Is our water good enough?
Yeah.
But it is true, it starts very young these days with kids. And it's not up to us to leave it to them to fix it. It's up to us to fix it now. And President Obama, when he spoke at the Tucson Memorial, said that we must live up to our children's expectations. And so I think that's something that we all need to say, is that the time is now to do things right, and we are the grown-ups, and it's time for us to get on and do it.
Let's cooperate. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
My pleasure.